I was holding a tray full of burgers when it happened. Summer heat simmered above the deck boards, and the smell of charcoal curled thick in the air. The kind of afternoon where the world is supposed to feel good, where the drinks sweat on the table, the kids laugh by the grill, and you believe for just a second that you built something close to a home. Alex and Jacob were leaned up against the railing, plates in their hands, smirking like they were in on some joke I'd never get to hear. Alex, the older one, had just come back from his friend's lake cabin. Tan lines, new shoes I didn't pay for. A certain air to him like he'd just realized the house was too small for someone as big as he thought he'd become. "He's just filling space until Dad comes back," he said. Jacob snorted. "Like a rental car. Temporary." And then Tina, my wife, gave a little nod. A nod. That's all. No protest. No "hey, cut that out." Just that small, silent movement of the head that said more than any scream ever could. I stood there, 10 feet away. Invisible. The grease from the burgers hissed behind me. I could feel the heat rising up into my face, mixing with the slow burn in my chest. But I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I just stared down at the tray and made a decision so quiet no one heard it but me. If I'm just a placeholder, then I'll make space. For all of them. Let the ghost they're waiting on finally come home. Let him open his arms and fix what he abandoned. Let him pay the bills he never offered to touch. Let him put food in the fridge, gas in their tanks, gear on their backs. Because the man they're still saving a seat for hasn't shown his face in years. But somehow I'm still the intruder. My name's Mike. I'm 45, live just outside Seattle, and I fix broken things for a living. Commercial repair, pipes, concrete, failed wiring, water damage. I step into messes and leave them better than I found them. That's what I thought I was doing when I moved into Tina's house. Stepping into a mess and trying to make it whole again. When we got married 3 years ago, I made the move. Not just into her house, but into her life, her boys' lives. I gave up my place, sold my truck, commuted longer, didn't complain. I told myself it would make things easier. I didn't want to uproot the boys. I didn't want Hannah to feel like an outsider. I believed I was doing the right thing. I've been wrong before, but never like this. From the beginning, I carried the weight. Paid half the mortgage, sometimes more when Tina's shifts got cut. Covered utilities, groceries, car insurance, school trips, sports dues, braces, books, holiday gifts. I worked overtime more weeks than not. In 3 years, I poured over $80,000 into a home that never once treated me like I belonged. I wasn't trying to buy their love. I knew better than that. But I thought, foolishly, that consistency would matter. That showing up every day, being there, carrying the burden. I thought one day it would mean something. It never did. Especially when it came to Hannah. She's 11. Quiet. Bright. Got a soft voice but a sharper heart. She'll draw pictures just to stick them on the fridge. Ask how your day was and actually listen. But in that house, she was treated like a smudge on a family portrait. An afterthought. Tina used to say, "They just need time." She said it year after year, like time was a solvent that could wash away resentment. Like it was some magic glue that would bond us into one of those smiling families you see on photo frames at the store. But time didn't heal anything. It just revealed how deep the fractures ran. The boys ignored her, looked through her. Jacob once told her to stop talking like a baby, because she called their dog by a nickname. Alex would leave the room when she sat down. They never included her in their conversations. Not when they were planning weekends, not when they played video games in the living room, not even when they were just scrolling on their phones. She was there but not welcomed. And Tina? She'd notice. She always noticed. But she'd never say a damn word. "Don't make trouble," she told me once when I tried to bring it up. They're adjusting. 3 years of adjusting. 3 years of silent dinners where Hannah stared at her plate while the boys talked like she didn't exist. 3 years of birthdays where she got a card and they got a crowd. 3 years of watching her retreat into books and drawings because it was easier to disappear than to be reminded she wasn't wanted. It's one thing to feel invisible. It's another to watch your child be erased. That night, after the barbecue, I tucked her into bed and she said, soft and sad, "Dad, Is it okay that they don't like me? I froze. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say no. I wanted to burn the whole house down. Instead, I kissed her forehead and said, "They don't see you. That's different. That's their loss." She nodded like she understood, like she'd already made peace with it. But I hadn't. The truth was this. I had nothing left to give them. Nothing they wanted anyway. They didn't want a father. They wanted an ATM. They didn't want a husband for their mom. They wanted a placeholder. They didn't want a family. They wanted their father's ghost, their mother's protection, and the freedom to sneer at the man who paid for their comfort. And Tina, well, she wanted peace. At any cost. Even if it meant cutting off pieces of me to get it. That's the thing they don't tell you about being a stepfather. You're expected to be a savior, but treated like a stranger. You're allowed to sacrifice, but not allowed to matter. Every time I paid for something, uniforms, travel, insurance, groceries, I thought maybe this time they'd see me. But they never looked. And when they finally did, it was only to tell each other that I was nothing more than a gap filler. A temporary stand-in for the man who abandoned them. A man they still loved more than the one who stayed. They laughed while they said it. And their mother, the woman I married, nodded. So I made the only decision left to me. I stopped trying. I stopped hoping. And soon I'd stop paying. Because if I was just a placeholder, then it was time to make space. The final straw didn't come in a shout. It didn't come during some dramatic fight or shattered dish on the kitchen floor. No, it came as a text message. A plain white bubble on my phone screen while I was fixing a jammed loading dock door at work. Your payment didn't go through. Should we contact his father? Jacob's baseball coach. 12 words. And somehow they cut deeper than anything spoken in that house. I stared at the message until the letters blurred. Not because I didn't understand it, but because for the first time in years, someone had addressed the truth directly. Someone had acknowledged the role I'd been forced into, the father I was expected to be, the man they used but never claimed. Should we contact his father? My thumb hovered over the screen. Could have lied. Could have said the bank made an error, that I'd fix it, that I'd keep doing what I had always done. But something inside me snapped. Not loudly. Not violently. Just a small, clean break. I typed. Perfect. Hope he picks up. I'm not part of the family anymore. I hit send. And it felt like exhaling after years underwater. When I got home, the house was exactly the same. That was the cruelest part. Dinner half-prepped on the counter. Music coming from Alex's room. Hannah tucked away in her little corner of the world drawing flowers she never saw bloom in this household. Tina was on the couch scrolling through her phone, looking tired in that way people do when they've been avoiding the truth for so long they start to believe their own silence. She didn't look up when I came in. She rarely did anymore. I went straight to my office. A small room that wasn't really mine, just the only space no one cared enough to take from me. The walls held receipts, paperwork, evidence of 3 years of quiet endurance. By then, I already knew what I had to do. I sat at the desk, pulled up the bank portal, and began severing every tether that held me to that house. Auto payments, canceled. Sports fees, canceled. Music academy tuition, canceled. Joint savings, split clean down the middle. My share moved into a new account Tina couldn't access. Gas cards, grocery drafts, insurance add-ons, every quiet, invisible thread of support I had woven into their lives cut. No anger, no shaking hands, just clarity. A kind of dark, cold clarity that only comes when the ground beneath you has already given way and you realize you've been falling for years. By the time I shut the laptop, I felt lighter than I had in a decade. The house, though, seemed to sense something had shifted. The air felt still, like it was waiting for something to break. It didn't take long. 2 days later, Tina's card got declined at the grocery store. She came home angry, not hurt, not confused, just furious in that entitled way people get when they realize the invisible hands holding their world together have suddenly vanished. "You shut everything off?" she demanded, throwing the grocery bag onto the table like the apples inside had personally offended her. I didn't raise my voice, didn't even look up from the cup of coffee cooling between my palms. "You said I wasn't real." I told her. Pay for it without me. She froze. Not because the words were cruel, but because they were true. Brutally true. Unavoidable. She had let her boys define my value, and now she'd have to live with the math. She didn't respond. She just stood there breathing like someone who'd been punched but didn't know where the hit came from. Life unraveled fast after that. Alex missed a performance because no one renewed the rental on his academy instrument. He blamed the world, his mother, the cost of things. Anything except acknowledging who had kept that life within reach. Jacob got benched from his travel team. Fees unpaid. Equipment unreplaced. He came home with his jaw clenched tight, throwing his bag into the corner like the earth had betrayed him. The house shifted from tension to open cracks. Voices raised. Doors slammed. Tina whisper-yelled behind closed rooms. The boys cried angry tears, the kind that weren't about loss, but about losing comfort they'd assumed was infinite. Meanwhile, I sat on the balcony with Hannah brushing crumbs off her pajamas, the two of us sharing burnt pancakes. The morning air felt different. Crisp, honest, like oxygen after breathing someone else's smoke for too long. She didn't know what I'd done, and I didn't tell her. Some truths belong only to the people who inflicted them. That weekend, I packed a quiet bag. Just the essentials. Just enough to leave without making a scene. A new apartment. 2 bedrooms. Closer to Hannah's school. Far from the gravitational pull of a household that had devoured every part of me except the part that refused to die. The morning I left, no one noticed. Alex was asleep. Jacob too. Tina in bed facing the wall, pretending dreams were better than the life she'd built. Only Hannah stood by the door, eyes wide, backpack on, ready to follow wherever I was going. "Are we leaving?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "We're going somewhere quieter." She nodded like she'd been waiting her whole life to hear those words. I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a speech. I didn't look back. Some exits don't require drama, only truth. After we moved, life softened. Not in big dramatic ways, but in those small, quiet mercies that make you realize how heavy the past really was. Hannah and I watched cartoons on a too-small couch. Burned pancakes became Saturday tradition. I really slept for the first time in years. Meanwhile, the fall of that house reached my phone in fragments. The mortgage slipped behind. Tina picked up night shifts, sold off furniture, listed the house. The boys dropped out of their programs. Their futures shrank down to the size of their mother's income. Something they'd never bothered to understand because I'd made the world so easy for them. Regret didn't come immediately. It never does. But eventually the text messages started. Short, brittle things. "Alex misses you. Jacob wants to apologize. Can we talk?" I never replied, because closure isn't something you hand to people who shattered you. Sometimes the truest closure is silence. Sometimes the cleanest revenge is peace. And for the first time in years, I had both. I didn't gloat. When the house went on the market and the for sale sign appeared in their front yard, I didn't drive by to see it. I didn't check Zillow. I didn't ask questions. I just knew, quietly and completely, that the weight I had once held up was finally crushing the ones who thought they were above it. Tina tried to hold it together at first. She picked up a second job, full-time retail during the day, night shift stocking shelves at a warehouse 30 miles out. The same woman who used to roll her eyes when I came home dirty from job sites now wore orthopedic shoes and came home with her knuckles raw from cardboard cuts. The boys, for all their pride, didn't lift a finger. Not when the fridge went empty. Not when the electricity flickered. Not when Tina's back gave out and she lay on the couch for 2 days straight with an ice pack and no one to make her tea. They weren't cruel. Just useless. Alex quit the music academy 2 weeks after his rental instrument got repossessed. He said it was too political, that the instructors didn't appreciate his talent. What he meant was that talent doesn't matter when the bills go unpaid. The academy refunded half the semester. Tina spent it on groceries and gas. Jacob tried to rejoin the team mid-season. No one called him back. He didn't have the gear anymore. The coach never answered his texts. He sulked through the house with his phone in his hand like he could scroll his way back to normal. None of them said my name. That was the part that struck me. Even as the walls cracked around them. Mortgage late, water bill unpaid, birthdays quiet. They never said it. Like speaking my name would make the absence too real. Like admitting I had mattered would collapse the whole fragile mythology they'd built about who I was and who I wasn't. I watched it all from the quiet edge of my new life. 2-bedroom apartment. Clean walls. Steady silence. My tools finally organized. My name alone on the lease. It wasn't luxury. It was better. There's a kind of joy that comes in small rituals. Making pancakes without anyone mocking the burn. Playing music without someone slamming a door. Brewing coffee and sipping it while your daughter hums across the table. Hannah and I filled the space not with noise, but with presence. We weren't a family built on apologies or false starts. We were just two people who chose each other every day. She started drawing again. Real things this time, not the sad little flowers that wilted in the margins of her notebooks. She laughed at my bad cooking, critiqued my outfits, asked me why the neighbor's dog always stared at us through the fence like it knew a secret. I told her, maybe the dog knows we got out. She smiled like she understood. I found myself sleeping through the night, something I hadn't done in years. No pacing, no clenched jaw, no listening through the walls for boys who never thanked me, or a wife who never defended me. Just sleep. Honest, uninterrupted, earned sleep. It was maybe a month into our new life when Tina sent her first message. Just 4 words. Can we talk soon? I didn't reply. Then came others. Alex asked about you. Jacob said he's sorry. Please answer. I need help. Each one landed in my inbox like stones skipping across a frozen lake. Each one cracked the surface, but not enough to sink through. They weren't reaching out to me. They were reaching out to who I used to be. The man who bailed them out. The man who stepped up. The man they believed would never really leave, no matter how badly they treated him. But that man was gone. And the version of me that remained didn't reply. Tina started calling next. I blocked her. Then came Alex's email. Long, rambling, full of passive regret. I didn't mean what I said at the barbecue. I was just frustrated. I missed the way things used to be. You were there for everything, even when Dad wasn't. I get that now. I read it. Twice. I didn't respond. Not because I hated him. Not even out of bitterness. But because some bridges aren't meant to be crossed again. Some bridges are meant to burn and fall and be forgotten. He didn't need forgiveness. He needed consequences. Jacob followed a week later, a shorter note. Just, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please say something. I didn't, because he'd already said everything when he called me temporary. When he laughed on that deck. When he let his mother nod instead of defend me. Their silence back then had been a verdict. Now mine was a sentence. Tina must have told them I wouldn't respond. The messages stopped. The house sold 2 weeks later. It went below asking price. The buyers were investors, a rental company. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that Tina was moving into a smaller place. 2-bedroom condo near a strip mall. No yard, no deck, no grill. The life they built on my shoulders had finally collapsed under their feet. I didn't cheer, didn't smirk. Just sat with Hannah on our balcony and watched the sunset over a grocery store parking lot, like it was the Pacific Ocean. Freedom doesn't always look beautiful. Sometimes it looks like peace in a quiet, borrowed chair. Sometimes it looks like not being needed. Then, 3 months after I walked away, came the letter. Handwritten, folded carefully, addressed to Mike. Not Dad, not stepdad, just Mike. It was from Jacob. His words were uneven, honest, not rehearsed, the kind of apology that doesn't ask for anything in return. He said he finally understood, said he realized what it meant to have someone who stayed, said he missed having me around, that it felt different now, lonelier, harder. He said he hoped I was okay, that he wished me peace. I read it once, then again. Then I burned it, not out of hate, not out of spite, but because some griefs are sacred, and some farewells deserve flame. That night, I sat with Hannah watching old cartoons on a tiny screen, our legs tangled up on a couch too small for comfort. She rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I like that it's just us now. Really us." And that was everything. That was the answer to every question. That was the reward for years of unspoken sacrifice. That was my closure. Because for once, I wasn't standing in another man's shadow. I wasn't a placeholder. I wasn't temporary. I was seen, chosen, held. So I ask you, was I cruel for walking away from children who only saw my value when it disappeared? Was I wrong for demanding silence in return for years of being ignored? Or did I finally do what every man trapped in someone else's family dreams of doing? Leaving, quietly, with dignity intact and nothing left unpaid? You tell me, came in a yellow envelope. No return address. Just my name. Not even my full name, just Mike, in thin handwriting that leaned right, like the letters were tilting forward under their own weight. Inside was a letter, folded twice, pages faintly smudged like someone had handled it too much before sealing it. Jacob. His handwriting had matured, still jagged, still uneven, but steadier. I recognized it instantly. You don't forget the handwriting of someone you bought notebooks for. Mike, it started. I know I don't have the right to call you that. I know I don't have the right to call you anything. Already he was different. I said things I didn't understand. I thought calling you names, saying you weren't real, would make me feel loyal to a father who never showed up. I thought if I drew a line, I'd belong more to him. I didn't know I was erasing the only man who ever actually stayed. He talked about the fallout. The house, the jobs Tina juggled, the way Alex stopped talking to anyone for weeks. He said it felt like being underwater, like everything was muffled and slow and hard. He admitted he'd tried to reach out before. Emails, texts, all ignored. He said he deserved it. But this letter isn't to ask you back, he wrote. It's to tell you I finally get it. And I'm sorry. I read it once, then again. I could hear his voice in it, older, softer, more human than he ever allowed himself to be when I was footing his life's bill. I held the pages in my hands a long time. No tears, just quiet. Then I struck a match and burned it. Not out of anger, not vengeance, but because some bridges deserve ashes, not repairs. Sometimes a clean ending is the only mercy left. 6 months passed. Hannah and I were at a school recital, her third that year. She had a solo part, nothing grand, just a small line in a group chorus. But she sang like she was the only voice that mattered. I sat in the third row, aisle seat, hands folded, proud in that quiet, invisible way only men like me understand, the kind of pride that doesn't need applause, just presence. That's when I saw Tina. She was 2 rows ahead, alone, no boys, just her and a coat draped over the empty seat beside her. Her hair looked different, shorter, face drawn tighter. She didn't turn around, but I knew she knew I was there. You can feel it when a chapter from your past walks into the room you're in. After the recital, we passed each other near the exit. She looked up at me, eyes glassy, a nod small, restrained, like a courtesy, not a connection. I nodded back. No smile, no words, just acknowledgment. 2 ghosts brushing past each other in the hallway of their own failure. Hannah slipped her hand into mine as we walked to the car. She was humming, still in the music. When we got in, she leaned close and whispered, I like that it's just us now. Really us. I looked at her. This small, resilient girl who'd been ignored, minimized, shoved to the corners of someone else's story, and felt something like resolution settle in my chest. Because the truth is this. I never needed Alex or Jacob to love me. I never needed Tina to worship me. I didn't need the title of dad or a tie on Father's Day. What I needed was to be seen, not used, not tolerated, seen. And I was, in that whisper, in that tiny hand wrapped in mine, in every burned pancake and bad movie and walk to school. I was finally living a life not built on the broken scaffolding of someone else's abandonment. I wasn't fixing what another man left behind. I was building something from scratch, from silence, from truth. And for once, it was enough. The boys? I don't know what happened to them, not exactly. I heard Alex moved in with a friend. Started working construction. Jacob stayed with Tina for a while. Community college, maybe. There were whispers of fights, of her falling behind on rent again. But I stopped checking. Because the minute I left that house, I left the burden of knowing everything too. Let them find their own footing. Let them call the man they defended. Let them learn what sacrifice really looks like, and what it costs to spit in the hand that holds your entire life together. They wanted to learn the hard way, so they did. There's a strange kind of peace that comes when no one calls you dad, but someone still calls you home. That's what Hannah gave me. Not a title, place, a purpose that didn't vanish the second someone else walked into the room. Tina sent one last message 6 weeks after the recital. You were right. I didn't see it until it was too late. I didn't answer. What could I say? That I waited years for her to stand up? That I was screaming inside while she kept the peace by killing my voice? That I carried 3 people on my back while she watched me sink? There's nothing to say when the apology comes long after it can help. Nothing to salvage when the fire already burned the walls down. I left it unread. Deleted it a week later. No ceremony. Because I didn't need her to tell me I was right. The bills told me. The silence at dinner told me. The smirks on the deck told me. And that nod sealed it all. But I didn't carry hate. I carried distance. That was the difference. I didn't want revenge. I wanted release. And now I had it. So let me end this the only honest way I can. I spent years giving everything I had to people who measured love in blood and names. I worked, paid, showed up, and they fed me silence, contempt, and disrespect. When I stopped paying, they remembered I existed. When I left, they finally listened. But by then, I was done speaking. And now, I ask you, whoever's reading this, whoever's still here at the end of this slow disaster, I ask, was I wrong? Was I wrong to walk away from a woman who let her sons treat me like nothing? Was I cruel to cut the financial cord when love had never been reciprocated? Was it too harsh to demand dignity after giving everything? Tell me, would you have endured it? Or would you have done what I did? Walked away, burned the bridge, and finally, stopped buying your place in a family that never gave it freely. You tell me,